Hello and welcome to Omnia with Clair Cummins
and Richard Boland. Now on today's show, we're going to be meeting one of the Midlands' longest serving presenters.
This Mad Hatter has proven himself a true football supporter, going from fan to chairman of Luton Town Football Club. Let's welcome Nick Owen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi Nick. Now firstly, thank you so much for coming to visit us.
It's lovely to be here.
Fantastic for you to be here.
So Nick, last night you were featured on a documentary about breakfast television called The Battle of Britain's Breakfast. There must have been a few things that you've seen over the years working as a breakfast TV presenter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a fantastic time because it was a whole new concept in this country. You know, no breakfast television up till then, no daytime television up till then.
Okay.
So it was a real breakthrough. In fact, daytime television followed later. You know, there was still a gap when we came off air at 9:25. There was nothing till lunchtime. And people didn't have televisions in their bedrooms and their kitchens in those days.
Yeah.
So no one bothered. No one even thought of watching breakfast television. So it's a very dramatic time.
Yeah. I hear that you may have a story about a nude artist's model.
Yeah, that was much later. That was another programme actually.
Okay.
That was Good Morning with Anne and Nick, which was 10 years later.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll never forget that day. There was a lady called Yvonne who was in her 60s, and she was earning a living as a nude model at an art college in Brighton.
Yeah.
And we decided to get her on the show. So are you embarrassed? You know, I mean, I'd be embarrassed whatever age I was, sit there in the nude for 2 hours being painted. But here she was in her 60s, getting a tidy sum for doing it. And so we wanted to know if it was a bit embarrassing for her and so on. And she said, no, my mother always told me that my body could be my fortune, etc., etc. So each week she'd go along to these students and sit in the nude and be painted. And we said, well, having talked to her, we said it'd be nice to get some people around here to come and draw you. So we got about 4 or 5 local artists, some of them students, I think, to come along and do their own impressions of her. And she came in, she was draped in sort of...
draped, yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Lying on a chaise longue, And so as that all was being got ready and she was on there and these artists were being lined up, they were behind Anne Darman and myself. So we were talking to camera here and she was off there behind. And suddenly I heard an absolute commotion in my earpiece from the director's gallery where all the people were working. Oh no, cut away, don't go in close. And we looked round and, the drapes had slipped and we're seeing all her credentials.
That's no good, that's no good.
Now, you're going to tell us a little bit more about Luton FC later on in the programme.
I could talk for weeks.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's good to know. That's good
Mm.
to know. But first, you might have realised that we've got some strange objects in the Omnia studio today.
Yeah, well, as you yourself, of course. Yeah, I see what you mean about strange objects. Yeah.
Well, that's because we're exploring superstitions in tonight's show. Now, Nick, do you have any strange superstitions?
Not particularly. I have sort of rituals before I go on air.
Yeah,
in the
such
programme.
as?
Well, I always like to brush my teeth and feel fresh and ready to go, so I'm starting the day again,
That's
But
a
I'm
good
not
one.
too superstitious, so I do avoid going under ladders when people are up
Me
there
too.
with a jar of paint or something.
Well, we would love to hear your strangest superstitions. So send in your stories or your pictures and we'll be showing a few of the best ones a little bit later on in the programme.
Now, often we hear about dairy farm closures in the news, but we rarely get to see what happens after the herds are sold and the dairy doors are shut.
Now, our first feature follows the story of Nick Brandrick, a man who has managed to turn his farm and find really creative ways to make his land pay.
Here's Rebecca.
Since 1995, the UK has lost an average of 1,100 dairy farms every year, and this is a trend that looks set to continue. I'm here at Wood Farm in Staffordshire to meet Nick Brandrick, whose dairy business collapsed in 2007, to see how his life has changed since then. Nick has been at Wood Farm since 1964 and has been successfully dairy farming since the 1970s. But like many dairy farmers across the UK, Nick's business hit breaking point when milk prices crashed.
In 2002 the price started to go back up and we reinvested. We thought, well, I've got a son who wanted the job, and we reinvested heavily into a new milking parlour setup.
Unfortunately for Nick, the incorrect installation of the new parlour would cost him in excess of £60,000.
My father at the time was getting down with Parkinson's disease, and there's a lot of problems then occurred. Lost mother-in-law, father-in-law. You got all that going on around you at the time. New regulations coming in on slurry storage. So at that, we pulled the plug. And that was the end of our dairy farming experience. And we've been farmers probably for about 400 years.
But Nick's story does not end there, and today he is as busy as ever. He has offered to show me around to see how the farm has changed since the cows left. So you've got caravans all over here. What did this space used to be?
This area here was actually two areas. One was for young stock,
Yeah.
it was gated off, and the other area there, there's a row of cow kennels, like we have cow kennels here where the cows slept. That was for low yielders, coming up to end of lactation, and dry cows. There's about 39 vans on now, and we're allocated on low storage for 40 vans.
As well as caravan storage, Nick has turned some of his farmland into campsites. What brings people to camp here at Wood Farm?
Well, you've got views looking over that way, which probably stretch for about 50 miles. We look over 5 towns, we don't see one, so you would think it was just totally empty countryside.
Today, caravan storage and camping provides Nick and his family with around half their income for the year. To accommodate the increasing number of visitors, they are now building new shower blocks and creating interesting spaces for their guests to see. But that's not all.
We're in the old silage shed now that used to feed the cows during the winter. This shed used to keep 1,000 tonne of silage in here, grass silage, and that would feed 120 cows starting from the bottom end. It's a venues room now. Mainly on a Saturday night, so we've got a few campers. If they want to come in and bring a drink in with them, they can. Also, we've had events here. We had a breast cancer event last year. Don't make no money out of this, very little money. It started off as a white elephant, but now it's helping to sell the other bits, like the camping with the tents, where we do make the money.
As well as karaoke nights and stunning views, Wood Farm's visitors are also offered a unique glimpse into the past. Over the course of 20 years, Nick has found dozens of items that have been dated as far back as the Monolithic and Neolithic periods. Many of his finds, like this shiny coin from the reign of Elizabeth I, are thought to be linked to the lords of Alton Towers. As exciting as the farm's past is, Nick is also all about the future. We head over to see the fields where his cows used to graze. How many trees are there here?
By the time we finished, next winter there'll have been 20,000 new trees gone on here. At the moment there's about 8,500.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And it actually was woodland up until 1952.
Yeah.
So this was an ancient woodland site. So what we've done is put back
what was there?
A woodland site again.
As well as creating habitat for future wildlife, Nick will receive a grant from the Forestry Commission for the next 15 years for the planting he has done.
Why do I do what I do? I don't know if I've got a brain. I'd have probably retired, sold up, and had $1.5 million in the bank and get on holiday every year, but I've never done that in my life. I've always worked 7 days a week and fed people. But now I sort of still work 6 or 7 days a week, but on different things. Smiling faces, that's what I like to see.
I've really enjoyed meeting Nick and seeing all the incredible things he's managed to achieve over the last few years. And I think Wood Farm serves as a perfect example of how rock bottom can be the solid foundation upon which we build a fantastic future.
Wow, what an incredible story.
Well, we at Omnia wish Nick all the best luck, and we'll actually be catching up with him a little bit later on in the year.
Now, Nick, Luton Town FC is a Conference League club, is that correct?
Yeah, at the moment.
Okay, so why Luton Town? Why not other Londoners like Spurs or Arsenal?
Because it's my local team from where I come from, 13 miles away, you know.
Oh, okay.
And my father took me to my first game on September the 3rd, 1958. I was absolutely bonkers about the club already. I've been following them in the papers, you know. Of course, there was no live football on television or anything like that in those days, so it was all down to reading the papers or listening to reports on the radio. And as I say, my father was a regular, and I got keen and got keener and keener and keener. And in the end, it's become a lifelong passion. 56 years of abject misery.
Wow.
We've had some great times. We were founder members of the Premier League, you know, and then things went badly wrong and plummeted and plummeted and plummeted. And then at one stage they asked me if I'd just get involved, purely as a figurehead, really. I'm not financially involved. So.
Now, Nick, can I ask, what's happening at the club now? We've heard there could be a promotion on the card.
Absolutely. We sort of won last night, and we're just about certain now to go up.
Good.
It should be clinched either on Thursday night or Saturday night this week. Thursday night, Cambridge, our nearest rivals, are playing, and if they don't win, we're up.
Yeah.
But Saturday, we can win, and, you know, we're up. but I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched. So,
Not yet.
but it's very exciting. We're about to get back in the Football League, brings in loads of money. You know, we get $1.5 million just like that.
Wow.
And you start getting television money, you get bigger crowds, and we're away again, back where we belong.
Good.
And there is something that I've really been excited about asking about. There is a lounge named after you, and we have heard a story. You got turned away once.
I know.
Is that true? What happened?
Well, yeah, there's a Nick Owen lounge. There's two lounges there, Nick Owen lounge and Eric Morecambe lounge. He was a bit funnier than me. Anyway, the Nick Owen lounge, one day I was there with my 3 boys, I think, just before the game, went to go and have a drink in there.
Yeah.
And the bloke on the door, who's a sort of bouncer type, who didn't know me from Adam, and he said, "Sorry, you can't come in here, mate." And I said, "Oh," I said, "sorry, full, can't let anyone else in." So we just went away. And afterwards, there's another guy in the queue said to the bouncer, "Do you know who that was?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, his name's in dirty great block capitals above your head."
Out of all the people,
Yeah, it's very, very funny, really. But it was all right, health and safety. If you can only have, say, 200 people in there, you can't let more in.
Exactly.
But he just didn't happen to know who I was.
So Nick, what activities is the club involved in the community? Because I know it's not just about football, is it? You do outreach and
yeah,
things.
there's lots of things going on, really. I mean, first of all, there's loads of youngsters coming through. We've got 10 and 11-year-olds playing there in various teams, and they go on tournaments abroad and so on. And we go out into colleges and talk to people and have training courses and education things going on at our place. And we're involved in lots of charities. I mean, it's all about trying to be part of the community and put something into the community in the hope long term that they put something into us as well and come and watch.
About the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we're
want
going.
to be there forever. And that's what, football clubs are very central to communities, more so than ever these days, because I think a lot of towns you wouldn't have even heard of if they didn't have a football club.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of future, our next feature is all about training our future practitioners, but in a rather extreme way.
Here's Callan with the story.
It's 1 p.m. on a wet Tuesday. In Birmingham, emergency services are dealing with a crash involving a coach, 2 cars and a motorcycle with up to 45 casualties.
We had a major incident at Clair at 9 o'clock this morning. We implemented our emergency plan and we're expecting to receive mass casualty.
But as realistic as it looks, this is just a simulation. Medical students from across the city have gathered at Birmingham City University's Faculty of Health. Along with the West Midlands Fire Service, these students are learning to deal with major incidents to enable them to cope with real-life situations. The university is equipped with its own scaled-down hospital, which the students are using to treat the patients. The hospital is complete with theatres, wards, and even a radiography room. As the casualties stream through the doors, the students are stretched to capacity.
I am playing a paediatric student nurse in the paediatric A&E department. So I'm doing my usual role on placement, which is to shadow nursing staff and do the roles that I feel comfortable with, so minor nursing roles. It's been a really good experience. It has been quite stressful, but I've learnt a lot with a simulation of a real ward.
The patients are made up of volunteers and state-of-the-art medical mannequins. Their day starts much earlier, in makeup.
I joined a company called Amputees in Action 5-6 years ago, and basically they are our agents, and we do casualty simulation for both the military and the civilian emergency services. How we prepare, we go through a sort of an induction course, which happened to me a long time ago now, and I've been doing this ever since.
Jeff is playing a man who suffers major trauma to his lower legs. When the paramedics arrive, he is unconscious. They rush him to the hospital by ambulance, where a mannequin takes his place so that the students can provide the treatment they would provide in real life.
If you can help people learn to save lives, as I say, we do this a lot with the military, and the feedback we get from them is countless lives that we've helped save through the medics learning how to deal with trauma.
The experience of a major incident simulation enables future practitioners to act confidently in the face of mass casualties helping them to save lives. The event itself is the only one of its kind for medical students in Britain. Considering the simulation's success and the value it gives to the students, could we begin to see more major incident simulations at other universities across the UK?
That looked like 1 in 10 stay, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't even know things like that existed
No.
or went on. Did you?
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm aware they do these sort of things. And
Yeah.
they're incredibly realistic, aren't they?
Very,
Very,
much so.
very impressive.
I don't think I could cope with that kind of situation.
No, in real life,
No.
I think you'd find something would kick in, I reckon.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I
Fire.
think a
When
bit
it's
of
a matter of
adrenaline
life and death,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you get on with it.
Definitely.
But I know what you mean. I don't half admire those sort of people who do it. And when, even in the small emergencies I've been involved in here and there, you really are lost in admiration for the people who work professionally in it.
they do
I mean,
every day.
one of the most dramatic things in my life was working on the Birmingham pub bombs, November 1974. I was actually reporting from outside the Mulberry Bush, you know, and the emergency services were in there looking for bodies and limbs and things like that. And that was just devastating.
terrible.
You don't half admire people.
Definitely.
Well, on that note, we would like to say a big thank you to the Faculty of Health at the BCU for giving us an opportunity to see an actual situation behind the closed doors of the A&E department.
Now, at the beginning of the programme, we asked you to tell us about your strangest superstitions. We've had some fantastic stories and pictures sent through.
Yes, but before we do share these with you, we want to learn more about how superstitions affect us today in the UK. So we sent Richard out in the freezing cold to speak to the people of Birmingham to find out what's been going on. It was a good day, wasn't it?
It was an interesting day.
Yeah.
We had we interacted with the public, we interviewed them, and we came up with a few kind of situations and superstitions that they have. So
Exactly. Well, let's find out how it was. Here's Richard.
we live in a relatively modern day society. The era of the internet, they say. But it's shocking to know that nearly 5.8 million of us still believe in superstitions. I wonder if that's true. Let's go find out. Can you tell me, what is the most common superstition that you've ever heard?
Walking under a ladder.
Well, obviously 13 is one of them, the number.
Maybe not putting umbrellas up indoors.
The idea not to walk in between a gap whenever you see a pavement, not to walk on the lines in there.
I think it's got to be the 3 drain pipes.
Absolute magpie, yeah.
Walking underneath the signpost.
Signpost,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you see a black cat, that's well. If a black cat cross your path.
Yeah, and would you walk under a ladder?
No.
No? You wouldn't walk under a ladder?
No way would I walk
Why,
under a ladder.
why would you not
I
walk?
was told from a child that it was bad. Oh, and not taking heather and stuff from gypsies.
Oh, okay.
Oh, if you don't have the heather off them, you're cursed.
I was born on the 13th,
Oh,
so,
okay.
and I think that's actually, I love the number 13.
If I can avoid walking under a ladder, then I will. But if it's going to cause me more time, then I just won't bother and I'll just walk
Okay.
on 3 drain pipes or walk under a ladder.
Really, I think it's a load of nonsense. I think if you followed every superstition, you wouldn't be able to do anything.
I think I'm conscious of these things, but I deliberately try to do the opposite.
According to the Daily Mail, these are the most widely recognised superstitions that are still practised in Britain today. And exactly like the public mentioned earlier, walking under a ladder is the most feared superstition among us Brits. So most of us acknowledge that these superstitions exist. But how many of us know where they came from or how they started? We are going to meet Emeritus Professor Bernard Capp from the University of Warwick to delve further into this mystery.
Richard. Hi. Very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too. So, Professor, were these common superstitions conceived here in the UK?
Most superstitions have a broader background. Most of them are extending right across Europe. In some cases they go back a very long time, all the way back to the Middle Ages, even back to the Greeks and the Romans, to classical antiquity.
So growing up, what do you think caused us to adopt some of these superstitions?
I think it's much the same today, oddly enough, as it was 2,000 years ago, which is that we don't have a total control over our own lives and our own destiny. We have more than we used to, because we now have modern science and modern medicine, but not total control. And superstitions seem to be all linked to the idea of averting misfortune or bad luck and bringing good luck.
So is there anything that science can offer an answer to this? Is there any scientific fact behind them?
Most of these things are very difficult to find any rational basis for, or indeed to trace the origins. In most cases, we have no idea where these things grew up.
So the British Medical Journal published a report to say actually less accidents happened on Friday the 13th than any other day in the year. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are that probably it means that people were conscious Friday the 13th, or that's a tricky day, dangerous day, I better be extra careful crossing the road, driving, not doing anything risky. So in that sense, it's almost self-perpetuating. You know, because you're being very cautious, it almost sort of, it works. But there's no real scientific rationale for that.
So do you think that superstitions will have any significance in our future? Do you think we're going to continue to be superstitious, or will it kind of fizzle out?
I think it will survive. Who knows at what level it will survive. And these things don't have the sort of elite respectability that some of them at least had a few generations or centuries ago. But there's, even with scientific or medical advances, we're never going to have total control over our own day-to-day fortunes and whatever. And that means I think people will all feel that need. It helps psychologically, emotionally at that sort of level. So in that sense, science and superstition are not actually in competition. They're doing rather different things.
Superstitions will always be an interesting talking point in our culture. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever get bored of it. Whether or not you believe it is up to you. I guess you have to ask yourself, are you superstitious?
So it is about luck anyway.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. We met quite a few people that day, and a lot of them, probably the majority, would say that they're not superstitious, but then they'd still abide by the superstition. So they'd still salute a magpie if they saw it, or they wouldn't walk under a ladder, they'd cross the street. A lot of them wouldn't walk over 3 drains. So it's very interesting that these things have kind of been passed down from family members, but they wouldn't call themselves superstitious.
Nick, could I ask, do any of your players have a certain ritual or a thing that they definitely will or won't do before they go on the field?
Well, I don't know specifically about our players, but in general, footballers do have loads of things, like they put the left boot on first and the right on second, or the other way round, or they put the shirt on last, or they put the shorts on last, and they want to be the last out the tunnel, or the first out the tunnel, or the middle one in the tunnel, all those things, and they always sort of might touch the top of the tunnel just before they go out. Lots of people do that. You even see people crossing themselves and stuff like that, you know, for religious reasons, presumably. But I've never really got these superstitions. I have little rituals. I mean, like when I'm about to go on air, I'm always asking camera crews or floor managers, like, is my tie straight and things like that. Because they can so easily get disrupted if you move.
It is today.
Is it? Thank you.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
It's looking good. Looking
right.
good.
Let's check out some of your strange superstitions. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay then, first up we've got Margaret Johnson from Bristol. She has told us when she was trying to have children, her grandmother told her not to eat lettuce.
I've never heard of that one.
That's just bad science, isn't it? I'm sure vitamins
you should be having
fruit and veg is good.
all coming in.
Not much going on in lettuce though, is there? It's
No,
just
true.
a
No,
leaf,
it's
I always think.
Just basically water. Okay, next, John Taylor from Salford said that he tucks his thumbs in when he passes a graveyard in order to protect his parents.
Have you ever heard of that one?
No,
Me neither.
it's bizarre,
It's
isn't
ridiculous.
it?
I've not heard of that one either.
I've got to be honest though, my favourite has come from Katie Blacker from Cardiff. Now, she believes that if a bird poos in her car, it's going to bring a good luck. So she actually parks the car under the tree so she gets as much bird.
Really? Oh, it drives me bonkers when the
That would
car's
drive
covered
me.
in
Wouldn't
bird
want some
poo.
good luck
It's a
bird
nightmare
poo.
to get off it as well.
Exactly.
To get off the car, isn't it?
Very
sometimes?
expensive to clean your car.
It is indeed.
Now, our final feature is about one teenage girl who is singing her way to success in Leamington Spa.
Now, she is so good, you're not going to believe just how young she is. Another inspiring story on Omnia with Hannah Worth, and we're going to find out what she's been up to.
I'm Hannah Worth, I'm 15 from Leamington Spa, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I started singing when I was about 3. I remember it was my granddad's 60th birthday, and I asked him if I could sing She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain, and that kind of kick-started it all.
Hannah picks up a guitar. Whenever she's walking into a room, if there's a guitar sitting there, she'll pick it up, have a strum and have a sing all the time, all the time.
I'm mostly inspired by people like Gabrielle Aplin, Nesbitt, Orla Gartland and Mike Dignam and people like that, because they've started off really small and then created a fan base and then been able, from that fan base, be able to go all over the UK, and sort of like with Nina Nesbitt, she's gone to different countries and they've all done little gigs and I want that too.
So I've been friends with Hannah for about 2 years, and we often go to town together. We share quite a similar taste in like music and clothes, so we do a lot of shopping and things and listening to music. I've got a lot of her music downloaded and things, so I listen to it. I've got her album as well.
My first album is called Work in Progress. I got my friend to do my photography. I burnt all the discs one by one, so it took quite a while. I'm working on more cover albums. I'm working on more songwriting as well, hoping to get another album done. I'm hoping to support people at gigs or continue in doing little sets at school after out of school things as well.
I'm very proud of Hannah. I think she's doing really well, and you can see that she really loves singing and really enjoys it and has a great passion for it.
I really wanted that my future should just be based around music, to have the career in music, so that it didn't mean that I had to have a supporting job. It meant that me full-time was doing music and sharing music with other people.
To end the show, Hannah is here in the studio and will perform live one of her very own songs, You and Yesterday.
But before that, I'd like to say, Nick, thank you so much for being with us here today.
It's been a pleasure. I've loved it. Love meeting you. Thank
you. And join us again tomorrow, because we'll be talking with the winner of The Voice 2014, Jermaine Jackman.
But now, ladies and gentlemen, Hannah Wolf.
Every word you say don't seem to fade away, and I feel broken once again. It's like they're on replay, just banging in my brain. You have spoken once again, and I don't want this. I don't need this now. I'm sick of you and your stupid little games. You constantly telling me that we'll be okay. I've got nothing to say other than goodbye to you.